The shouting started before the sun had fully climbed into the sky. "Amaka! Amaka! Come here right now!" The voice of Mrs. Balogun exploded inside the quiet house like thunder before rain. Birds flew out of the mango tree in the compound. The security man stopped sweeping near the gate. Even the neighbor's small dog began barking loudly, as if it also sensed that something was very wrong. Amaka dropped the plate she was washing in the kitchen sink and quickly wiped her wet hands on her wrapper. Her heart was already beating fast as she hurried toward Madam's bedroom. When she reached the door, she stopped. Mrs. Balogun stood in the middle of the room, holding a small red jewelry box in her shaking hands. Her eyes were wide with anger, and her lips were pressed tightly together. "My gold necklace is gone," she said slowly, her voice full of fire. "The necklace my husband bought for me many years ago." Amaka felt the air leave her chest. "Did you take it?" Madam asked sharply. The question hung in the room like smoke from burning firewood. Amaka shook her head quickly, fear rising inside her stomach. "No, ma, I did not touch it." But the room had already decided the answer before she spoke. And that morning, in that big house in Surulere, the smallest voice belonged to the girl everyone was ready to blame. Only a few months earlier, Amaka had lived a completely different life in a quiet village in Anambra State. Her father was a cassava farmer who spent long days under the hot sun, digging the dry earth with a cutlass and hoe. Her mother roasted corn beside the dusty roadside where buses stopped to carry passengers going to Onitsha and Owoka. Their small house had a zinc roof that made loud noises whenever rain fell at night. Life was not easy. Some evenings, the family ate garri soaked in water with groundnuts. On better days, they enjoyed hot pounded yam with vegetable soup. But there were also nights when the cooking pot stayed empty. Still, Amaka loved school more than anything. She loved the smell of new exercise books and the sound of chalk writing on the classroom board. She dreamed of becoming someone important one day, maybe a nurse or a teacher. But one evening, everything changed. Her mother called her to sit beside her under the mango tree. "My daughter," her mother said quietly, "your father's sickness is getting worse. Farming is no longer bringing enough money." Amaka looked at her father lying weakly inside the house. "There is a family in Lagos who needs a housemaid," her mother continued. "They said they will feed you and maybe help you go back to school later." Amaka felt tears rise in her eyes. Leaving home was the last thing she wanted, but she saw the tired look in her mother's face and the pain in her father's eyes. "I will go," she said softly. 2 days later, she climbed into a crowded bus heading to Lagos, holding a small nylon bag that carried 2 dresses, her Bible, and a pair of worn slippers. Lagos shocked her the moment the bus entered the city. The roads were full of cars honking loudly like angry goats. Yellow buses stopped and moved quickly, and street sellers ran between vehicles shouting their goods. "Pure water, cold water, bread, fresh bread, gala, gala." Tall buildings stood everywhere, and people moved quickly, as if everyone in the city was chasing something. When Amaka finally reached Surulere, she stood quietly in front of the Balogun family compound, staring at the tall black gate and the shining tiles in the front yard. The house looked bigger than any building she had ever entered. Mrs. Balogun opened the door and looked at her carefully. "You must be Amaka." "Yes, ma. Your duties are simple. Sweep the compound every morning, wash plates, mop the floor, and help in the kitchen." Amaka nodded respectfully. Her room was a small space behind the house near the generator shed. It had a thin mattress, a small window, and 1 plastic chair. That first night, she lay on the mattress staring at the ceiling. Outside, Lagos traffic hummed like a restless machine that never slept. She closed her eyes and whispered quietly, "God, please help me." Life in the Balogun house soon followed a strict routine. Amaka woke up every morning before the sun appeared. The air was still cool as she swept the compound, pushing dry leaves into small piles while listening to the distant sound of buses and early traders opening their shops. After sweeping, she boiled water for tea, washed plates from the night before, mopped the sitting room floor, and helped pack the children's school bags. Some days her back ached badly. The strong soap she used for washing clothes sometimes burned the skin on her hands. But she never complained. The children liked her. "Amaka, give me more stew," little Sade would say happily during lunch. Even Mr. Balogun sometimes nodded and said, "Good work." Those small words gave Amaka courage. She told herself that if she worked honestly and patiently, life might slowly become better. But inside the same house lived someone who never treated her kindly. His name was Tunde. Tunde was Madam's nephew. He was about 24 years old, tall and handsome, but he carried himself with the lazy confidence of someone who believed the world owed him comfort. He came to Lagos searching for work, but most days he slept until late morning. When he woke, he sprayed strong perfume, wore flashy shirts, and left the house to meet friends. Sometimes he looked at Amaka with a mocking smile. "Village girl, this Lagos life is not for people like you." One afternoon, Amaka entered Madam's bedroom to sweep. To her surprise, Tunde was already inside the room. He quickly stepped away from the dressing table. "What are you doing here?" he asked sharply. "I came to clean the room," Amaka replied quietly. Tunde stared at her for a few seconds, then he walked out without another word. Amaka felt something uncomfortable inside her chest, but she said nothing. One Saturday afternoon, Madame was preparing to attend a wedding party. Music from the neighbor's radio floated through the compound while Amaka washed clothes near the tap. Madame came out of her room wearing a beautiful gold necklace that shone brightly under the afternoon sun. Amaka had never seen anything so beautiful. "Finish cleaning my room quickly," Madame instructed before going to take her bath. "Yes, ma." Amaka finished sweeping and wiped the dressing table. Before leaving, Madame removed the necklace and placed it gently inside a red jewelry box. The gold sparkled briefly before the lid closed. Amaka finished her work and went outside again. A few minutes later, she noticed Tunde walking toward the house slowly. He looked around the compound before stepping inside. Something about the way he moved made Amaka feel uneasy, but she continued washing clothes. She did not know that trouble had already begun to grow. Later that evening, a loud scream burst from Madame's bedroom. "My necklace! Where is my necklace?" The entire house froze. Amaka rushed inside with soap still on her hands. Madame stood beside the dressing table holding the empty jewelry box. "The necklace is gone!" she shouted. Amaka felt fear crawl into her chest. "I don't know anything about it, ma." "You cleaned this room today," Madame yelled. Neighbors began gathering near the gate. "What happened?" "The housemaid stole gold," someone whispered. Those words pierced Amaka's heart like sharp thorns. Madame Balogun's anger grew stronger. "If you don't return it now, I will call the police." The word police made Amaka's legs feel weak. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I did not steal it," she repeated, but no one listened.
When Mr. Balogun returned home, he listened quietly to the story. His face was serious. "Amaka," he said slowly, "if you took the necklace, return it now. We will forgive you." Amaka felt the weight of shame pressing down on her. Running away suddenly seemed like the easiest escape. If she ran now, she would not hear their angry voices anymore. But running would mean accepting a lie. She wiped her tears. "Sir," she said, softly but firmly, "please search my room." Madame frowned. Still, they followed her to the small room behind the house. They searched her clothes, her bag, her pillow, even inside her Bible. Nothing. The compound fell silent. For the first time, doubt appeared on Madame's face. Just then, the front gate opened. Tunde walked in. Tunde stepped into the living room confidently, unaware of the tension waiting inside. But as he reached into his pocket for his phone, something slipped out. Clink! The sound was small, but it felt louder than thunder. Everyone looked down. The gold necklace lay shining brightly on the tile floor. Silence filled the room. Tunde's face turned pale. I was just keeping it safe, he stammered nervously, but nobody believed him. Mr. Balogun's voice became cold. Tunde, you have brought shame to this house. The neighbors outside whispered loudly. The truth had finally revealed itself, and it did not belong to the girl they accused. That night, the compound was quiet again. Mrs. Balogun knocked gently on Amaka's small door. She carried a plate of hot jollof rice and fried chicken. Amaka, she said softly, I am very sorry. Amaka looked up slowly. I judged you too quickly. Tears filled Madame's eyes. You are not just a maid here anymore. You are part of this family. Relief washed over Amaka like cool rain after a long hot day. Months later, something beautiful happened. Mr. and Mrs. Balogun kept their promise. They helped Amaka return to school. Every morning, she walked to class carrying books instead of buckets of water. She studied harder than ever because she understood something important about life. The poorest voice in the room is often the first to be blamed, but truth is powerful. People may hide it, they may doubt it, but one day, somehow, truth always stands up and speaks. And when it does, no lie can remain.